Hey guys, Steven here with Cabinet Startup, and as you guys know, Wilson. We're both here this morning with James. He's out of Texas. He went through the Cabinet Startup program and has absolutely crushed it. He's been another great story that we wanted to share with you guys and get an opportunity to ask him some questions that might be able to ask your question or answer your questions. So we'll go ahead and dive into it. Again, this is James out of Texas, and James, you mind telling everyone kind of where you were at before Cabinet Startup and how your journey has kind of developed since then?
Sure. So as you can tell from my accent, I am a native Texan, not. I'm actually Australian, and I've lived in several countries, including the UK, Canada, and then I finally got to the great nation of the USA and the great state of Texas. So, but in my journey in life, I've done a lot of varied things. I've actually got an accounting degree and a postgraduate degree in education. So my first real job, I suppose, was ultimately part of the Subway team that opened the first 50 Subway stores in my state of Queensland back in home. And from there, I moved on to a banking career where I was everything from a teller right up to an international trade finance manager. And probably my favorite job in the bank was as a trainer, as a sales trainer and a staff trainer. Then I moved on to actually having my own kitchen and bathroom business. And that's where I learned a lot of the skills that I actually brought to this business. And but in between starting this business and that, I also was vice president of a telemedicine company in Canada, and also a vice president of a WeWork type organization, and in Texas here. But I finally took the leap to go back out on my own business, and haven't looked back.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know when we first got connected with you, I was very impressed with your background. And, since you've started with us, we've certainly have shown you our process, and we've as well have learned things from you. And so it's been a cool experience for both of us so far, and we're excited to see you keep going. Could you tell everyone maybe a little bit about how you saw or came across Cabinet Startup and what you were thinking about when you decided to reach out to us?
Sure. So I was actually looking at franchise opportunities. Basically, the stats are that franchises generally perform better than doing a lot of startup. I definitely have the background and varied skill base to probably do my own startup of whatever I was chose. But I was looking through the franchise system just to make sure that it was going to be more successful. And I think it was more of a Facebook ad or a pop-up that I came across Cabinet Startup. And the thing that I really liked about the system was there was no ongoing fees. It was very, very, very reasonable to get into. And the other thing that excited me was watching you, Stephen, really, that, you're a young guy and you've obviously been very successful. And I thought, well, the proof's in the pudding. Like a lot of franchises you look at, they think that they're a franchise, but they, some of them don't even have a company store. It's more of a business concept, whereas you have got the true result on the ground. And that was one of the things that, success drives success, and you were successful. So thought, well, you must be doing something right.
Well, awesome. I think you could say it's paid off for you.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm still on the journey and still what I say in startup phase, but the potential that I'm seeing is amazing. My biggest problem at the moment is actually juggling the amount of work that I've got coming in. And so I'm just in the process. Right after this interview, I've actually got several staff interviews to conduct to expand my team and grow the business.
Great. And is there anything that surprised you during the process that has turned into a pleasant surprise?
I suppose ultimately the detail that you gave into the actual business system, that you just it's not just talking about this is how you use a spray gun and this is what a cabinet door looks like. The way you set up all the different computer systems and the website support and everything like that, that basically just made it a turnkey operation. And you've given the option that, if people are a little bit undercapitalized, that they don't necessarily need to go and rent a premises and buy a new car and do everything that they can, and it'll probably be a little bit of a struggle, but not an insurmountable struggle to get the business going. And then as they grow, they can definitely add to their repertoire of assets behind them to do it. I'm lucky that I was a little bit more capitalized, that I could rent a shed from the outset and build my own spray booth and everything like that. But yeah, definitely there's, it can, work almost on the smell of an oily rag.
Yeah, you can start off a little scrappy. That's how I got started, with just a pop-up tent and spraying in people's yards. And so where there's a will, there's a way. And it certainly makes it easier if you have more resources at the beginning. But we've worked with other students who don't have that luxury, and they've been just as successful as well. So what would you say to anyone that might think that this program or offer is too good to be true? It seems like we talk to a lot of people that are interested, and they kind of get themselves off the fence out of skepticism and suspicion, thinking that what we're offering is a little bit too good to be true. Do you have any thoughts on that, or what you would tell people?
I think, and I don't know whether I'm out of line here, but I would talk to people like myself, and obviously this video will go a long way, but hey, give me a call, premiumcabinetcoatings.com. My phone number's on the website. Give me a call. I'll talk you through it. It's, definitely a very low barrier to entry with the pricing that you've got compared to other franchises. It's definitely not, someone who's got $100 in their bank account can afford, but it's definitely something that if you've, got a little bit of the means, and that doesn't need to be large, and the willpower and the ambition, you're not going to look back. So give me a call, talk to other people, but and watch all the videos that Stephen and Wilson have produced. Like, they're not telling lies. It's their experiences. So believe it. It's true.
Well, I appreciate that, and hopefully you don't get flooded with too many calls.
Yeah, your phone's never going to stop ringing now.
No. That's what I like to tell people too, is just look at the other videos. If this were, anything other than legitimate, it would be a pretty drawn out scheme going on. But I appreciate the transparency there. And Wilson, did you have questions you wanted to get across?
Yeah, two things, because James, your background, and when we first started talking, one of the things I was really excited about. I remember calling Steve and saying, "Hey, this guy that I'm talking to right now, James, actually has a background and experience in franchises. Like, he knows what you get when you purchase into a franchise. A lot of people haven't seen both sides of it. Having seen both sides of it, knowing what people get for the hundreds of thousands that they invest to start a franchise, how would you compare the actual systems and the quality of the business that you got?"
On par with, as I said, Subway. When I worked for it, I don't know what the stats are now. I don't follow them that closely. But when I was working for Subway was actually the largest franchise in the world based on the number of units that it had. A lot of people, obviously, from a dollar perspective, McDonald's and others might be a little bit larger in how big they are. But Subway, in the terms of the amount of stores that it had worldwide, was the largest franchise. And it's, on that basis, it's a reasonably, inexpensive. It was a reasonably inexpensive system to get into, and it's very thorough. There's a book that's about 3 inches thick that you get as part of your. Well, back then it was a $10,000 fee, so I used to call it the $10,000 book. But interestingly enough, no one read it, and that's what it used to boggle me, and it was very thorough and everything. And obviously, the Australian market is different to the US market in some regards. But again, you guys, have produced not a stickers book, but everything in there is relevant and on par with, what I've seen professionally with something the size of Subway.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because you came in, with all that experience, and you do have some background in business, which is incredibly helpful. But you've been actually, your business has been live for 4 months now.
Yes.
4 months, and you're just now starting to hire a new team.
Well, as you guys advise, the best way to do it is learn the craft and do the first couple of jobs yourself. My problem is that I'm very good at, or sometimes I'm too accommodating to customers. So while I've been in my first couple of jobs, I've also, they've all got me to do other things as well. and still doing it. Like even my first customer still rings me every second day because he's now got a hair salon and wants me to do things. So so it's a case of not saying no, but looking after my customers, because all customers to me are long-term customers, and you build that relationship with them. But having the other guys, that I'm going to train up and setting them on the exact system, which I'll admit I've been guilty of not following because of these not distractions, they're all opportunities, and I've got the skill base, luckily enough that I can do different things.
Right.
But definitely with my hires, I'm going to make sure this is your job. You've got 4 or 5 days to complete it. You need to get it done, and follow the system. And that way, that'll free me up a little bit to maybe do some of these other things and acquire more customers and build the team further.
Yep, that's awesome. Now, the business is still newer. You're 4 months in, but I'm always curious. In 4 months, what's been your best month in terms of revenue?
Probably the month that I'm on at the moment. I'm pretty much on target to probably around 30 grand, but that was me doing everything. Whereas I've had a little bit of help on the way. I've had a few laborers from the neighborhood that are family friends that I know that have come and helped me.
Yeah.
But generally, it's just been me on doing everything and working some long hours. I won't deny that. But it's hard work that's rewarded, and if you want to be successful in life, you have to work hard. No one is successful working 8 to 5 or whatever.
Right. Well, this is not the opportunity where you make $1 million sitting behind your computer screen clicking things. Like that's those don't exist.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, that's for a one-man operation. That's pretty good for month 4.
Yeah, and this, reflecting back on the Subway days, that we had franchisees that thought that they could, just buy the franchise, do the 2 weeks training in Connecticut, and then come back to Australia and open their store and put 10 staff in there and off it went. And it's not the case. You've really got to knuckle down and get stuff done and drive the business forward. And that's like anything. If you think you're going to be a passenger, this is not for you. And I would say no business is for you because great businesses don't have passengers. They have doers, and they have people that need to get stuff done.
Amen to that. Yeah, we see that a ton. Well, so I'm curious, as you were looking through all the different franchise opportunities and different options out there, what was it that made you decide to take the leap with us as opposed to any of the others?
Yeah, well, as I said, I've got an accounting degree, so I am fairly conservative by nature. And I've seen a lot of business deals being in banking. I've been in a few business deals that went a little bit pear-shaped. The low barrier to entry was definitely the biggest attraction. It wasn't a massive outlay, or from my point of view at least, and also that there was no ongoing fees necessarily. That you haven't got someone looking over your shoulder with their hand out who aren't really willing to help you necessarily. Whereas you guys are not like that. You haven't got your hand out, but you are still willing to help, which is actually really good. The Tuesday night teleconferences are things that I look forward to, and hearing new ideas and hearing the successes of the other guys. And I think there's a lot more to be done, in that team aspect where we could, help each other. And I know you guys have all got plans, on doing that. And the Cabinetsupplies.com, I think it's called, those sorts of programs that you put in place are fantastic.
That's awesome. I appreciate that, man. So without getting too deep into numbers, how long would you say it took you from the time that you started until the time you'd earned your entire investment back? Like what was your time period to ROI?
Well, given that I probably put more money in with setting up a shop and buying a lot of things, I'm probably right at break-even point now. And so definitely in the first month or so, but it's been that I've been more investing back in the business with buying different equipment and everything like that. I'm really not worried at this stage about, but definitely, the money's been coming through the door, and I haven't had to dip in any reserves to get stuff that I need. The business is self-funding at this stage.
That's awesome. Okay. So you're just reinvesting back into,
yeah,
which is what we want to see, obviously, right? I think that's the best thing you can do in your business, especially early on, because obviously the foundations and framework you set right now are going to make what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years.
Well, that's the thing, and I think I ran through this with Stephen. I may have run through it with you. Like, this is the school teacher. That was one thing in the career I didn't mention, that I was a school teacher for 4 years, teaching mathematics and business in a high school back in Australia. But when I was a business teacher, one of the things that I learned at university was, everything in business is 3 circles that you got to look at. One's the investment decision, one's the financing decision, and the other one's the dividend decision. So the investment decision is everything that I buy or do in my business is an investment decision. Do I buy a stapler? Is that going to add value to my business? Do I hire an employee? Do I, buy a new vehicle? All those are in the investment decision. What's the return I'm going to get? The second part is, how am I going to pay for it? Is the financing decision. Do I pay for it out of cash flow? Do I take out a loan or a lease or whatever? And once that's given me that return, what do I do with the dividends of it? Do I reinvest it back into the business and get another vehicle or another employee? Don't really need another stapler, but ultimately it's those things that you decide to do. And if you run through that sort of business model on every decision that you make, and just sort of think it out, don't over process it, but think it out. That's one of the key thought processes I go through.
I like that.
Yeah, that's really good wisdom right there for any business, which actually kind of is something that I would love to hear your perspective on. People sometimes reach out to us and they go, oh, well, can you just teach me how to paint the cabinets? That's the skill I really, really want. And I'm curious, having gone through some of that skill and also some of the different systems that we teach, what would you say was the most valuable thing that you learned going through our program?
I just think the overall, holistic part of the program, that you cover off on the sales process, you cover off on the, how the painting systems and the different things and everything like that. So, and they all intertwine. Like, it's not just a mutually exclusive, part of the business. They're all interdependent on each other. And it's not about learning how to, you can watch Google videos on how to do those things. It's the holistic business system that's important here. Don't lose sight of the bigger picture, is what I'm probably going to say, is it's all part of it. The sales process, and not only the spray painting, but how it's done, the speed that you really need to do it in following it through. When you're painting a cabinet, not just painting bits here and there, pretty bits that you like. It's like going from left to right or up and down or whatever, so that you're doing it efficiently and effectively. So you're completing the jobs within the week time frame that hopefully you can.
Yeah, the holistic, I think, matters.
Yeah.
It matters a lot, especially when you're talking about the overall success of the business, because the painting is such a small piece of it.
Mm.
It's necessary.
A lot of people, they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so when they believe all they need is the technical know-how on how to refinish cabinets, and that skill alone is good enough to build a business around that trade, it can often be met with a lot of disappointment and overinvestment in certain areas, or getting caught on challenges that could have been prevented if they had taken the time to learn the comprehensive systems around the whole business, not just the refinishing. And and like you mentioned, we can teach someone how to spray a cabinet, but there are systems that intertwine through that process that allow someone to spray efficiently. And so part of the value that you can get from learning our process is not only learning how to refinish cabinets, but how to do it within a predictable amount of time. So you can schedule your jobs ahead of time, and you can create predictable revenue and income because you know how long each job will take. And knowing those nuances, knowing how to be proactive with those decisions is going to be valuable for anyone.
Yeah. And the fact that you give us a list of equipment and supplies that we're going to need, so that you go to Home Depot and you may spend a couple of $100 to $1,000 on getting all those things, but when you rock up on the job, I've got that in my tub.
Yep.
I don't have to go back down the shop and get it and waste valuable time. So little things like that. And then, but even the process itself is a selling tool. Going through and telling people about this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, wins us a lot of jobs, and it differentiates us, which is a key thing in any business, is differentiating yourself from the competition to say, well, our process is this, and this is why we have a good outcome, and this is why I'm called premium cabinet coatings, because I do a premium job, and you're going to get a premium finish.
Exactly.
And hopefully, for my sake and your sake, you can put your kitchen in a magazine.
Yep.
Because that's what we're looking for, a magazine style finished kitchen.
Exactly. And you know what that looks like, having some experience in the remodeling space, and even changing the color of these cabinets alone can make such a huge transformation. And with your experience, and at least you knowing what the customer wants, you can go out and find a countertop person, find a flooring person, find a backsplash installer, and be able to offer these other value propositions to these customers without necessarily having to do all of that additional work. And that's one of the things we like to teach people as well. Maybe we can go into a little bit about, based off of what you've gone through so far, what would you say is your realistic vision for the next 12 to 24 months? How do you see the business evolving, and what do you think your goals might be?
Again, it's just growth. Well, obviously with COVID, a lot of people are staying home, saving money, not wasting money on things that they would normally do. So they're now reinvesting in their house. And, we all know that the kitchen is usually the heart of the household, and it's probably the thing that adds the most value to your house, either in the way that you use it and, spend a lot of time and have it functioning every day, or if you're looking at moving on and selling and everything like that, it adds the most value. It's probably bathrooms and kitchens are the things that most buyers are focused on when they're actually looking at a house. So from that point of view, COVID, as what a disaster it is, and my heart goes out to everyone who suffered loss and everything like that. It does provide an opportunity for us that people are spending money, they're saving money, they're spending money, and they want to make their houses better, and that means a good opportunity for us to help them out and do it at a reasonable cost. That they don't have to replace the kitchen, because a lot of kitchens these days, they're built fairly well, and the bones of the kitchen, the boxes, are in good nick. It's just give it that facelift, and you've got a great functioning kitchen.
Yep.
And that's actually a really good thing to know. We didn't really bring up, we didn't talk about it, but you did launch this business during the middle of a pandemic and are doing exceptionally well. And that deserves kudos, right? A lot of the world is afraid and scared right now, and for good reason, right? You should be cautious about certain things, but to start a business during that time and do as well as you've done is really a testament to the amount of work that you've put in, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone that's thinking about cabinet startup, right? If they were considering doing it, what would you say to them?
We have a sort of an attitude in Australia where we just, and it might be too much French for you, but just get shit done, and just do it, get it done, and get into it, and you won't look back. If you've got a market out there where there's people with houses, with kitchens, there's a market there, and if you live in a decent sized town, I'm not talking 500 people, I'm talking in the thousands, then there's an opportunity for you to make this work. And to be honest, I like the work. I enjoy coming to work every day. I like what I do. I like seeing the finished product, and as I said, it's a fairly low barrier to entry, so your risk is pretty minimal, and if you're willing to work hard and follow the system, and I can't express that enough. All the businesses that I saw as a banking manager that failed, they had no system. Or the franchisees, and even in Subway, like the largest, as I said, the largest franchise in the world, the franchisees that struggled were the ones that didn't follow the system. And if you follow the system, it's proven and it works. So just get in and get it done.
Heck yeah,
I love it. Well, cool. I really appreciate your time, James. I think that'll be good for to get some points across to people that are interested in the program and had some questions. Hopefully we were able to answer some of those for them. Anyone who is interested in the program or wants to start a conversation, reach out to us. Me or Wilson will be happy to have that conversation and talk about the next steps. But other than that, James, I wish you a good rest of the week, and thank you for your time, man. We'll talk soon on the next group call.
Yeah, look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Awesome.